so you can hear me better, but can you believe it? It's been over a year since I've had this car. It doesn't feel like a year, but it certainly has been a year and 2 months or so. So I decided to make a 1-year ownership recap, if you will. Well, a lot of my viewers are IS300 owners or people who want to get IS300 owners. That was a bad shift, and I caught it on video. Currently, I don't drive the car very often. I only drive it on the weekends. I guess by definition that makes this car a weekend car. But yes, my other car is a Scion FRS, which that's pretty much my daily drive. This car just kind of sits in the back. Just the way our driveway is set up, and we have roommates, I pretty much just leave one car in the front and I park the other car, essentially this car in the back, more or less, so we can have more room. Okay, so review part of this car. I'm also going to kind of tie in a little bit of frequently asked questions with this car because I get a handful of the same questions. I'm not complaining, just I think in the last month I've had 4 or 5 people ask me what my stereo is. I'm going to go over some of the things that, you know, you might be having a question about. So first of all, the manual transmission. A lot of you guys are asking, how did I do the manual swap? Oh, there's a bump. So I've heard people say, oh my god, there is transmission out there for this car. You're wrong. I don't know of a car that has so many transmission options you can pick from. You can pick a W58, pick an R154, AR5 transmission, you can pick a CD09, a T56, a whole bunch of transmissions. You can even pick a BMW. I'm not a BMW guy, so it's a BMW, I forget which one it is, but you have like 7 transmissions right off the top of my head. So there's plenty of transmission options out there, depending on your budget. They're all expensive, some more expensive than others, but the transmission I went with in this car is a W55, and to my knowledge, the W55 only came in the manual transmissions. Maybe it did in another car. It came in a manual IS300, so I had to buy a whole wrecked manual car and pretty much stole everything. So with me buying a whole car, it was kind of nice because I could reuse the same hardware, so I didn't have to go through the headache of like, oh my god, I have to find this bolt that fits here, and I don't know how it needs to be. Now, this isn't the transmission's fault, but the shifter I have is I'll put the name of the shifter I have here. It came with the car. I'm gonna be honest with you, I hate that shifter. I said it mainly because it shifts all your gears leftward, so if you're going to go in 5th gear, it feels like you're in 1st or 2nd, if that's how far to the left it is, and it bugs me. I bent it a little bit, so it's a little bit better, and now it doesn't have that notchy, crispy, shifty feel, so it kind of feels like marbles when you shift it. But that can be fixed. I remember when I first got this car, I talked about 2 things that I wanted to do to it. Manual swap it, and then turbo it. To be super honest with you guys, an automatic stock IS300, super boring to drive. It's comfortable if you have the stock exhaust and, even stock suspension. It's super nice, comfortable car. I just rubbed. I lowered the car 2 weeks ago, and now I'm just rubbing. What was I saying? So yeah, automatic, super boring. I almost lost interest in the car because it didn't feel special when you're driving an automatic IS300 with no power. I could be driving a Camry and get better gas mileage. It would be the same thing as driving the boring IS300. After manual swapping it, I started to enjoy the car a lot more. I haven't taken it to a track or anything, mainly because the closest track event to me is 4 hours. At that point, I kind of have to make a weekend out of it, 4 hours, and kind of find maybe a hotel or something, because driving 8 hours on top of beating the snot out of the car all day, it's kind of a little difficult. Logistically, it's a little difficult, so that's something I have to kind of work out. So this car has about 2,000 miles since it became manual, and well, it's a little bit better, more enjoyable to drive. I'm going to focus a little bit more about my 1-year ownership of this car before I go on a different tangent. The year that I've owned this car, it hasn't let me stranded. Things like my throttle body going out, which kind of took the car out of commission for over a month. Let's turn around here. I'm in some weird neighborhood. Feels a little sketchy. I kind of get that vibes, Reliability standpoint, this car's been okay. Though this thing pukes out oil, it still gets me from point A to point B. so I'm going to do some frequently asked questions, rapid fire style. You ready? So the stereo I have is a Pioneer SPH DA200. The little TRD sticker I got here came from the shift knob, but I had to cut it because it was a shift knob from Wish, so it didn't fit. Probably that's why it didn't fit. So TRD shift knob. Shifter I dislike. Yes, the car did run with the automatic ECU when I had the manual transmission, but I had so many codes about torque converter and other weird automatic transmission things. I switched the ECU and, well, it eliminated like most of the check engine lights for that. People have some kind of hiccups here and there where the car just hesitates ever so slightly if you run the automatic ECU. I didn't experience that because I only drove it for like 500 miles or so, but there you go. Front brakes are LS400s, BC Racing coilovers. I think it's 12K up front, 10 in the back. Still a little too soft. Spring rates need to be a little higher, I think, in my opinion. It's kind of almost floaty feeling, but again, I haven't taken it to a track. I think those are the top questions I get. So again, if there's another question, just put it down below. I'll answer it. I got to it. Ooh, butter. I love when you go on a brand new road. Okay, here, I thought of a question for myself. It says, I've owned this car for a year. Would I buy it again? You know, do everything I've done all over again? That's a pretty good question. So if you can take anything from this video, in my ownership, would I do it all over again? So, the car, when I got the car, I feel like it wasn't taken care of very well. So, including everything I have into this car, including the manual swap and everything, I've spent about $6,000 into this car, including the manual swap, including, you know, everything I've done to it. The manual car, I've sold some things, sold the coilover, some interior pieces, and random meat bits, so, you know, that brings the price of the swap. Would I do this all over again, or would I take those $6,000 and kind of put it somewhere else? Now, with $6,000, there's only so much you can buy. You can't really buy anything super fancy. You can buy a manual IS300 that's already manual. You can't really buy anything that's 1JZ swapped or, you know, anything that cool. I don't know. Part of me says, yes, I would do it all over again, but since I don't drive this car, I drive it maybe 4 times a month now. And the one time a week, it's me like, all right, it's the weekend, I should probably do a video because I haven't done a video in like 3 weeks. And that's me kind of pushing myself to drive the car. Would I do it all over again? Probably not. I would not do this all over. And if you're asking yourself, wow, you would not do it all over again, then just sell the car. Here's the deal. I'm a sucker for this car. I am attached to this car. I don't know why. Maybe because it's my first East Coast car, and I'm a sucker for this car. I don't drive it anymore. It just sits, and I'm just paying insurance for it. So it doesn't really make sense. Here's the deal. When I first bought this car, there was 2 things I wanted to do to it. One was manual swap it, and, well, I did it, and I put 2,000 miles ever since it's manual, so success on that one. 2, I wanted to turbo it. Now, if I want to sell the car, I shouldn't turbo, because it just makes sense. The more money you put into the car when you sell it, you don't get that money back. It's common car knowledge, if you will. I'm going to give myself 8 months from now. If I don't have pieces together to turbo this car, I'm more than likely going to get rid of it. I've had maybe 5 or 6 people that message me. It's like, hey, I got an IS300 because of you. Thank you, blah, blah, blah. That's awesome. I like hearing that. And, well, you're probably about to unsubscribe, but no, I'm not going to sell the car anytime soon because I still want a turbo. There's some things I want to do to this car, and I think they will make it so much more fun because it's missing that fun factor. Right now, it's just like a manual Camry. Sure, you can do donuts with it. You can go, you know, slide it around a little bit. But this car, in my opinion, this car sits in that weird group of cars that is not necessarily lightweight, but is not necessarily heavy. Like lightweight cars, I would consider a Miata or a 240 or a, you know, an FRS. The FRS is 2,800 pounds. This car is like 3,300 pounds. So I wouldn't consider it heavy. What I would consider heavy, it would be like a bigger car, like a Challenger or something, like a big sedan. 4,000 pounds is what I would consider heavy. So I think with a budget turbo setup and a FRS differential in the back to make the gears a little bit shorter, I think this car would shine. It would be And just like that, we're back. I actually tried to do a little peel a couple minutes ago, but I accidentally turned off the camera. And it had traction control on, so it's not like it mattered anyway. So even though I talk about selling this car every other month, it's been an okay car for me. You know, I have full confidence in the car now. I could drive it, you know, to California and back tomorrow if I had cruise control, because that would be terrible. But yeah, stick around if you want to see more videos on the AS300 and more FRS videos. Everybody's interested in this thing, but I like that thing a lot. I think it's kind of cool. All right, see ya.